Chris Stapleton music playing. Had it all queued up. See? You hear that?
I like it.
This episode of Part-Time Professional contains adult language and humor. You're listening to Part-Time Professional. First week of PTP live, so we had to go official with the theme song. Going to jump right into it. To introduce my two guests today for this new show that we're starting this week. And the reason that I wanted these two of three, one's missing, he couldn't make it in traditional fashion, but the reason I wanted to have these people on first were because these people were instrumental in encouraging me to start this podcast, and I think still are probably some of my biggest fans. I don't know what episodes you guys are up to, but they are also related to me, so I want to get that disclaimer out of the way so that they kind of have to at least pretend to like what it is we're doing here. But I'm going to introduce you guys, and if you can say hello and maybe share with the crowd what your beverage of choice is this evening, starting with Brother Landon.
Dustin's brother. Sitting here enjoying, unfortunately, some Michelob Ultra. It was about, I don't know, it's similar to water, I guess, like you mentioned before.
All right, welcome to PTP Live.
Excited to be here. Big fan.
Thank you, big fan. We've also got Cousin Brett.
Hey, what's up?
What are you drinking?
I'm rocking Rolling Rock tonight on the rotation.
Rolling Rock. All right.
Nice.
Former Pennsylvania original, now made in Newark, New Jersey. Lovely Newark, New Jersey. So, as always, I'm your host, Dustin, and tonight I'm rocking, to start with, born on California's Central Coast, 805, or as I like to affectionately refer to it as the Yuengling of the West. It's my go-to beer out here in California.
I don't know about all that, but
That's a bold statement.
I've also got a cup of Jack Daniels in the queue for when this beer's kilt, and I have a feeling we might need it tonight with some of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. So kind of want to jump right into it. First and foremost, this is the first opportunity I've had really to talk with people directly on the podcast about the podcast. So starting with Brett, what are your impressions so far of Part-Time Professional? Some of the highlights, favorites. What are you thinking?
I mean, I've been enjoying it. It's interesting to hear some of the guests you have on. Learning about Overland has been pretty cool, especially from the East Coast. We don't see a lot of that kind of where we're at. But hearing the passion that these guys have when they talk about whatever hobby they're in, it's been good. Coyote Works was really good with the shooting, because that's something that we can relate to back here.
Yeah, that conversation, the conversation with him was really cool. I didn't even know, even though I've been a fan of like watching his content the last few years, I didn't know how legit professional training he was going with his marksmanship. It's been pretty cool to watch that series. Have you had a chance to go check out his channel yet?
Yeah, some cool stuff on there. His Jeep burning was crazy.
Yeah. That video, actually, I didn't even get into. Well, we'll get into that in a second. Lamb, what about you? What's some of the highlights so far that you liked, or have you even listened to the podcast, or are you just a faker?
please, I've listened to every episode. I mean, I'm really enjoying it, and like we just said, the overlanding is really interesting because I'm not even familiar with it at all. Pretty much until your podcast, you told me that you had some guests coming on that were overlanders. Specifically the Coyote Works, the guy from Coyote Works that was an awesome podcast. He kind of went more into detail of what he kind of like how he plans his trips, which was neat. Like he said, he'll kind of find like a historical type place that some old homestead or where some small little battle or skirmish was fought, and kind of go try to find it, which is really neat to me.
Yeah, I think when I had Brandon with Trailspin TV on, he lives in Chicago, and he started that Trans-American Trail series, which I think starts in North Carolina, which is like where the start of the trail is. But even that portion of the trip, if you watch that series that he did, is like only partial off-road. I think mainly because there's just not as much wide open public land to do that on. But yeah, it's been pretty interesting talking to those guys, and I think it's a way for people that aren't into backcountry hunting or hiking to be able to experience some of the land out there that we have available to use publicly.
Yeah, for sure.
Go back and check that podcast out on Tuesday with Jameson Redding. He's the brand manager for Blue Sky Boat Works and works for JK Media House. Jackson Kayak is involved with making all their fishing films and stuff, and that conversation was pretty cool. So going back for a second though to the Coyote Works episode, because I've been dying to talk about this a little bit. This is kind of a little bit of a behind the scenes, right? So, which when you watch the video, I don't know, Landon, did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched the whole video actually.
Yeah, he's just like the cool, calm, and collected dude. Like, and that's why like it comes across that way when I talk to him. I'm like, man, there's no way that I would keep my cool as much as that guy did when his Jeep is burning to the ground and he has that whole national forest.
I think he's just that kind of guy. It seems like he comes off of on his videos. He came off on the podcast that he's just, I mean, he really doesn't get like too worked up in situations like that. He's calm, cool, collected. I mean, he lost a lot of stuff in that Jeep worth a lot of money and just time and effort.
How far out was he? Because I mean, what are you really going to do?
He was 30 miles from pavement, I believe, when it burnt. And he had a friend come pick him up the next day, and then he had a tow truck come out to tow the Jeep out of there. And he said that the tow driver said it was like the toughest tow that he's ever done to get back to where the Jeep was. And like, when you watch the video, though, it's pretty amazing. Like, I watched his Instagram. I follow him on Instagram, and he was Instagram live feeding when it was happening that night. And it was crazy. Like, I didn't know that he got all the footage that he did of like him trying to like pull his shit out of the back of the Jeep. But I mean, it was crazy, man. And then like talking about cutting a fire line, I'm thinking, who knows to cut a fire line around something to keep it from burning to the ground?
Oh my.
But it's kind of, I like it because it was kind of like, it does show you that, no matter what hobby you're into, that practice and preparation for whatever you're doing, you may not need it, but it pays off eventually. And that was like case in point. Like his whole channel is about practicing that stuff while he's out there enjoying it. So
right.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
I feel like if you're really into that stuff and you dive that deep into it, you're probably, not that you're hoping you get in a situation like that, but like after the situation happens, you can kind of look back and say like, oh, like I've kind of honed my craft. Like I can stay calm, cool, and collected in situations and know what to do. And I get too freaked out about it.
I didn't ask him this, but I wonder what the AAA bill was on that to tow it out of there. That guy get back to pavement. So I wanted to start off. I found right before we came on air, I read this. I wanted to read this because I didn't know this, that this is from an Instagram post from The Rock. This is his Good Shit Sunday post. As a lifelong fan of country, traditional outlaw music, I highly recommend one of my favorite artists, Sturgill Simpson. Sturgill, Cody Jenks, Tyler Childers, Chris Stapleton, Jamie Johnson, are a few of my favorites who would have made Jennings, Merle, Paycheck Cash, Gosden, and the Possum himself very proud to keep the tradition going. If you know, you know. Now jump in the truck and turn them up. Hashtag Good Shit Sunday. Just another reason why The Rock should be president. I want to kind of jump into a little bit of, I sent you guys an article this week that I found interesting. That's kind of local and national news on the outdoor front. And I'll kind of lay the groundwork of the basis of this. And then I want to get you guys' impressions of what you thought of this thing. And somebody stop me if I say anything incorrect, because I want to make sure I get this accurate. So there's a gentleman, we'll call him that as of now, named Mr. Mike Long, who has been known as the king of big bass. He held, I believe, every major lake reservoir record for largest bass here in SoCal, particularly the San Diego area, as well as, I think, the ninth largest bass in the nation, in the world record bass, ninth. And there was an article that came out by SD Fish, which is a local San Diego fishing magazine this week, exposing him as a fraud for snagging his record fish. And so this guy, Brett, how did you put it to me yesterday about the length of this article, if people want to check it out?
I'm pretty sure I've read books in college that were shorter than this article.
The article is very lengthy. The guy is very extensive, which one point I wanted to make was it was amazing to me that the guy took the time to expose this guy to the depths he did when he's the founder and editor of SD Fish magazine. So he's actually heading up this periodical and is having the time to go out and expose this guy. And the article goes into details, I think, towards the end of how he caught him. And just to refresh everybody's memory for a second, I've got a bit of a clip from the, if you guys can see this, hopefully. This is a bit of a clip from Mr. Mike Long himself.
Yeah, I actually watched this today. In
the video, there he is,
Yeah,
ripping bellies.
That's him?
Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
This is the author of the article is taping him from a hillside in a ghillie suit,
which is not weird.
which is not in the least bit weird. Oh my.
Look at that.
I mean,
bass.
that was my favorite part right there, actually, of the whole clip. Because look at the size of this bass.
That thing is huge.
When it jumps in the water. Oh my God. There's actually nothing better than a podcast and a video that everyone can't see. But this bass is probably, if I go a little bit forward here to where he brings it into the boat, this guy's getting all the details.
He's zoomed in and everything.
You can check this out at SD Fish. They've got the videos up there. I think I missed it, but yeah, he's releasing it.
Well, you know he's serious because he has like that face covering.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too was like earlier in the article, he takes a picture in his like badass Ranger bass boat in his garage, and now he's fishing from an aluminum G3 with a trolling motor on the back.
He's wearing like track pants.
I'm pretty sure that boat's rented. There's number one on the side.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. I never noticed that.
With just a trolling motor on the back.
So yeah, this was the gist of the Mike Long controversy. For those who don't know what snagging is, it's essentially when you are casting out with a large treble hook and trying to snag fish by any part of their bodies, as opposed to fairly catching them in their mouth by them taking the bait. So it's obviously an unethical practice in the sport fishing world. And Mr. Mike Long, with all of his high profile on this, kept up this ruse for quite a long time and finally he's now exposed. I read an article, a supplemental article that was a lot shorter that summarized. Maybe I should have sent that to you guys on meateater.com where they summarized it. I'm not bitter.
I got a question though.
Go ahead.
So how big is bass fishing in Southern California?
Well, the scene is pretty big. I mean, there's a lot of bass boats out on a lake on a given Saturday. I mean, it's a popular thing, and everything from, you know, I think they mentioned in the article a little bit about the float tube scene. He kind of started out in the float tube scene. The float tube scene is huge. The bass boat scene, you know, aluminum boats, everybody's out there. There's a lot of people that fish. The thing I thought was interesting, though, was he said that people were catching on to this, to the fact where it suffered or caused the San Diego bass fishing scene to be suffer because I guess people kind of knew that this was going on or suspected it was going on and didn't say anything, which kind of brings me to my first point that I wanted to talk about, because I think what he did was wrong, and particularly that he was like, I think, wait until spawn and was going and snagging females off the bed, sight fishing females in clear lakes off the bed, which is, I mean, even worse with snagging, because it's just like, they know that you're not catching that female, you know. So anyway, but this guy was entering 2-man tournaments in the bass fishing scene, but saying, oh, I don't have a partner, I'm by myself. You got to blame a little bit of the cheating
the tournament.
On the tournament.
Yeah.
Why is someone letting someone go in a 2-man bass tournament with one angler saying, are they all just saying, well, it's Mike Long, he's so good? But no matter what partner you stick with him, you know Mike Long's fish are going to be the ones that win it if he wins. Nobody thought that was suspicious.
He fished worse with partners than he did on his own.
Yeah.
He finished in the teens when he had a partner, and then he would win the tournament by himself.
When I think majority of the time he had a partner was his son.
From what I saw in the article, it said that more than one of his partners in some of these tournaments had said that which this could just be them saying something, you know, you never know, but they had said that they'd go out for the tournament and Mike Long didn't catch a single fish, you know, of their bag. He'd go out in a tournament and they wouldn't win or anything like that. They'd come in 7th, not in the money or anything like that. But and the other guy had said, I caught all 5 of our fish.
Well, and I think in the Meat Eater article, it's kind of summarizes where other people were saying that, like, he's a terrible fisherman. Like, he's not even like he can't fish. Like, he doesn't know how.
Right.
And people were afraid to say anything because I guess he was like also kind of like
crazy,
performed like thuggish behavior
towards
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you listen to the PTP or not.
I know. Mike, we love you. We want to have you on next week. If you're listening to this.
That'd be great if you could get him on.
But the article also said, I think he's like he just is like, oh, he sold all his fishing stuff and he's trying to move on with his life. And it's like, this dude won hundreds of thousands of dollars. And like, what are they going to do about that? Nothing, I guess, right?
I mean, I don't know. That the article just broke, maybe a week and a half ago. So,
yeah.
I mean, people were suspicious of him for years, but
they can't. I mean, even the article, when the cheating got brought up to a couple of the contest officials, said they couldn't do anything, even when it was 2 weeks old.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to do anything. I mean, I think the guy's going to get off scot-free. I mean, he's probably spent all that money. I mean, over a period of, you know, a decade or more, you know, $100,000. I mean, he's spent all that and more, you know. But,
I mean, is it more the money or is it more the fame, you think, that drove him to do it?
I think it was the fame. I think he liked, because of his thuggish behavior at the docks with people that he didn't like, I think it was about the machismo, you know. He liked being the big badass on the block in not only San Diego, but his name was notorious everywhere in bass fishing, you know. What did guys say, like angler Roland Martin?
Yeah, I was
that
gonna say.
approached him and said, "Hey, do you know who Mike Long is?" Oh yeah, it's like, geez, this guy. Yeah, I think it was the fame. I don't think it was the money. In fact, I don't think it was the money because I'm thinking to myself, if this dude's catching that big a bass on a consistent basis, how the hell is he not being sponsored to get into the Bass Tour?
Yeah, does he
Or the
not have?
Bassmaster Classic or whatever.
Yeah.
How did he not have any He didn't have any endorsements or anything like that.
No,
like,
he did. He did.
did?
He was like an affiliate for certain brands, but like he didn't move to the point of like going actually to the professional level, which if you have that many records
Right.
in a place like Southern California that's notoriously hard to catch bass because of the heat,
Mm-hmm.
and you have that big of records on a national scale, he never and it's just like, nah, I don't want to go pro. like I just like to do it for fun.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you watch the video of the snow bass? Him catching the infamous
I
snow
did.
bass from the article.
I didn't
Did you
watch
see
that video. No, I didn't
That was
see
bad.
that one.
I don't know. I don't know if you can explain it better than me.
Yeah, I like the picture after the water had receded where he built the fish cage out of rocks to
Yeah.
hide the bass. He pretended
Oh,
to
I
grab.
didn't see this video.
Oh, you got to watch that
I'm
video.
sure he got it.
Oh, I got to check that one out. I didn't see that.
I think
He's
it's filmed on like a 1992 VCR recorder.
yeah, it's terrible quality. I think it was
Wow.
from like the late 90s or something, the video. But he's trying to explain the technique that he's using to catch these bass. And he just, I mean, it's not 15 seconds and he catches this thing in quotes. And then you don't see any, I mean, it's terrible quality, but then he kneels behind a rock and then just kind of pulls out a bass. And it's like, like, I don't know if he had it on a stringer on the side of the lake.
This is your tackle tip Tuesday. You go down to Bass Pro Shop and you pick up the biggest boat anchor you can find. Take it to your local machine shop and sharpen that son of a bitch to a razor's edge. Find something that can drag on the bottom wherever they're spawning, and you'll have the biggest bass record.
Put in the fish tank.
Yeah, and the fish tank in the background too was crazy. So
That's some dedication, though. He put into cheating. Just to throw that out there.
yeah,
To go out there the night before, tie up some fish to a dead tree, go back the next day and try and sell it like you caught it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking, I wanted to see, particularly Brett, if you thought this way about this, and I don't want to go down this road too much because I would love to talk to this guy if possible, but do you kind of think that this is a similar situation to the Chris Brackett thing for the fishing industry?
To a degree,
Or do you not put it on the same level?
I think I would. And I asked that question, like, is it the same thing or is it the money? But you see a lot of this no matter what outdoor industry, your hobby is. And I'm big into hunting, so I can probably talk a little bit more on the Chris Brackett thing. It's I think those guys, when they put themselves at the top tier of hunting or fishing, feel an immense pressure to kind of keep themselves up there for their sponsors and in that level. So I don't know. It's hunting and fishing. It's a different beast when it becomes your job like that.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's where it's like, I think, yeah, you're right, because it is a different situation. I mean, Chris Brackett's situation, there was a lot of money and career and things at stake that really was responsible for that situation being
still wrong. Don't get me wrong.
Mike Long kind of, still wrong. Yeah. But Mike Long did not have as much to stay at stake. He kind of the opposite. He was purposely like, Chris Brackett was the epitome of showmanship, right? And like was always striving to be the guy that everybody knew who he was. Whereas Mike Long was inconspicuous, like best bass fisherman in the world, but driving around in an aluminum John boat, and he's kind of keeping a low profile on purpose, I think, to try to keep the run going or the lure going of his.
Is that because his fame came from snagging or, a taboo type of fishing versus Chris Brackett made he made himself popular through numerous ways, but his downfall ended up being a bad event.
Yeah. So in that particular situation, do you think that it was the poaching or the behavior on camera that kind of brought that empire down?
Poaching started it, but once you make a mistake, it doesn't take long for people to start coming out of the woodwork. And those videos that came out after the poaching were just crazy.
He's really rebuilding it though.
Not letting it get him down.
Yeah, no, you got to give him that for sure. I mean, he's kind of changed directions now. He started his own, I think, land management company that you can hire him to come and prep your land for wildlife management. So, I mean, I don't think we'll see Mike Long. I mean, we really didn't know of Mike Long, or at least I didn't. I mean, I know of probably of the three of us, obviously, follow fishing, professional fishing the most. I mean, I watch bass and FLW and KBF, but I didn't know who Mike Long was till this article came out, So we'll see what happens, but I just thought it was interesting and wanted to talk about it a few minutes just because, ethics in the outdoors is a big hot button issue no matter what you do. I mean, it can be anything from, hunting, fishing, overlanding even. There's people that, throw fits about people taking their off-road vehicles places. So, I mean, no matter what you do, there's controversy surrounding it. And coming out with an unethical practice in any hobby is not good for what it is you enjoy doing. And my last thing I wanted to know, I mean, do you think that he was having a good time doing that? Like, honestly, was he enjoying going out and snagging fish? Like, was that just because we've all been fishing, right? And it can be mind-numbingly boring. But
in one of the sections of the article, one of the guys that he had known had said that Mike called him on the phone ecstatic about catching some 7-pound bass or something like that, some enormous bass in one of the lakes. But the guy that Mike had called knew that he was using illegal bait and fishing after hours, but he called ecstatic about catching this fish. Like he was excited because he said, I knew that he caught that one legitimately because he was really ecstatic on the phone, but he didn't catch it legitimately. He was using illegal bait and after hours. But like Brett had said, he's putting in so much work. You know what I mean? He's going out at night to do this stuff and hiding it all behind the scenes for what? Like a $1,300 purse for the tournament? You know what I mean? Like every once in a while.
Yeah.
It just seems, I don't know, a little bit
narcissistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he also knows that he's not going to go out on the reservoir in the middle of the day and snag a fish by its belly and not have a legitimate angler come up and say something to him. Especially if they know that's Mike Long fishing over there.
Right.
Those dudes are watching what he's doing, so he can't do it during the day.
That article, he had a pass to fish that one reservoir that was closed during the week, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah.
So he was one of the few guys that got to fish this prestige, nice lake when kind of no one else had access to it, which probably fed that desire to kind of keep bending the system.
I wonder if I should call down there and see if that pass is available now.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Hey, I heard Mike handed his pass in. I guess we'll see what happens with the future of Mike Long. I hope that maybe, if nothing else, a lessons learned. Anytime something like this happens, I think it kind of keeps people a little bit more honest, at least for a period of time. And then, like the guy says in the article, hopefully this allows his tournament scene that he was involved with to rebuild. And
well, Mike, you're probably more famous now than you ever were before.
Oh, so I know him now.
Coming after any of us. If that's what you're chasing.
Yeah. Now he's going to be the new pun. He's quit Mike Long in it. So, moving on to something a little bit more upbeat and happy. I wanted to have you guys on, and we're going to talk about some travel stories that people submitted.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I wanted to do this in front of a crowd so we can talk about some of these things. I got some good ones. I kind of picked out probably 3 of the best ones that I got. And I'm just gonna read the email, and then we're gonna just we can react. Feel free to speak up and pause me if I need to clarify something that I read, because there may be a couple of those moments here. But so this is the first story. PTP. I had to share a story from a few years ago. My friend and I decided to take a road trip across country since both of us had some unused vacation days to burn. Sidebar, this is my worst nightmare, having to read in front of the class, so bear with me. We rented a small tow-behind camper to take with us to save on hotel bills. Most of our planned camping spots were in parks or campgrounds. One night we decided to disperse camp, which means kind of camp without hookups, in the desert. It was around 2 a.m. and we awoke to the sound of what can only be described as a low-pitched growl. We both were frightened out of our minds. The growl continued to get louder and appeared to get closer to the camper. Finally, at one point, whatever it was started scratching on the door of the camper. My friend let out a shrill scream, which apparently was enough to scare whatever it was away. We never determined what it was that night, especially since it was such a low-pitched growl. And they finished the email by saying, we stayed in hotels the rest of the trip. What do you think of that one?
It's pretty wild.
Any theories? Low-pitched growl in the middle of the desert?
What part of the country he was at? He was in?
He or she, it didn't say. Desert, yeah. Camp in the desert. Didn't say. Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
Mike Long, bass fishing. I don't know.
Pretty
weird.
It's a crazy one.
With desert terrain.
Did you, I know, Brett, you don't listen to it very often, but did you happen to listen to the Joe Rogan episode with Bob Lazar?
I did not.
You got to check that out.
Crazy.
That's where my mind first went. Aliens. Middle of the
I mean,
desert.
Southwestern, that's where they always end up being.
UFO. Yeah. That's it.
I mean, they're in a camper, pretty close to being a single wide trailer. There's definitely a little demographic that we're following here.
There's a demographic. Yeah. No, that was a crazy one. I don't like hearing stories like that because then it freaks me out.
Camping somewhere near Groom Lake out there.
Yeah, Groom
Lake. I would rather take my chances in the camper with the mystery animal and sleep in like a hojo or something out there.
Yeah. Well, I think like that doesn't freak me out as much as like
bed bugs freak me out.
This was also on the Joe Rogan podcast. Did you guys hear that story that Les Stroud, Survivor Man, told about his Bigfoot encounter when he was in the tent?
No,
by
I didn't
himself?
hear anything about that. No.
Oh, you got to go check that one out. I mean, he's like one of those guys that when he tells that story, like he doesn't want to tell it because he doesn't want to be known as the Bigfoot,
right.
That a believer. But he's just like, I tell you, man, I can't explain what it was, but the way he describes it is pretty intense.
Well, that's like your what's his name from Coyote Works? He said that he feels more comfortable camping, 30 miles away from these campsites than in the campsites, just due to some of the people that are out there. It's like,
well, actually, though, the thing I thought about when I read that email was the fact that Casey says, any person that you encounter,
that's true,
30 miles from pavement, that's the guy you got to worry about.
Right.
I had a similar story happen to me. We were fishing one time, and we were staying in a tent. And in the middle of the night, I heard a low growl as well. But when I opened the tent, it was Landon who had drank too much. Was getting rid of some Yingling that he had partaked earlier.
I wish I could say I remember that, but I really don't know if I do.
So maybe it was Landon. You were stationed out west.
I was, yeah. We did a lot of camping trips that involved booze out there.
You got a bathroom inside of that thing?
Oh, good times.
Oh God. It's going off the rails, people. All right.
He's into the Jack Daniels already, everybody.
Second story. This one I love. You guys are going to like this one, particularly you, Brett, I think. So this is one of those stories that you tend not to share. That's how the email starts.
Great.
Can't wait. Great. Last year, I planned a father-son fishing trip out of state for my son's 13th birthday. It would be our first solo trip, minus the wife and other kids. My son, being the typical teenager, was sleeping in the back seat of our SUV. About halfway through the way there, we stopped at a gas station to fuel up. My son, still asleep in the car, I filled up and ran inside to pick up some snacks. We were off again on the road, and about 25 miles later, I yelled for my son to wake up, and no response. After many attempts, I look back, and he's nowhere to be seen. I quickly performed a U-turn and proceeded back to the station at a high rate of speed. I tore into the parking lot to discover that my son inside the store with the police present. He had apparently jumped out to come find me when he woke up, and I left without him. I never told my wife, and my son has never let me forget it. This is the best part of the email. Signed, Anonymous Dad. So, first of all, here's my question, okay? If that happens to you, and Landon's not a father yet, but Brett, you and I are. If that happens to you, are you telling your wife that you left
that is rough.
your kid 25 miles out at a gas station?
How do you open that conversation up with her? Oh, the funniest shit happened today.
You're never gonna know.
You will not believe what happened.
You will not believe this. So as I'm reading this story today, before the podcast, I do remember my dad forgetting me in a Lowe's one time.
Yeah, I remember that story.
When I was young.
That wasn't an accident.
Yeah, it was not. Turned out it was not an accident. It was a failed return policy.
Was there no cell phone service? Did this kid just not call his dad?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's true too. What 13-year-old doesn't have his phone glued to his hip?
25.
My 5-year-old wants a phone right now.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. That's true. I don't know.
So he had to travel 50 miles round trip to go back and pick his
50 miles round trip. Yeah, 50 miles round trip.
That's a good bit of time.
Listen,
it's an awkward car ride the rest of the
way. Keep sending in the stories, Anonymous Dad. We love it. Providing content for the show.
Wait, one more thing. What did he have to bribe his son with not to tell his mom?
Oh, yeah.
Good one.
That's what I want to know.
Because I would be using that leverage like crazy.
Yeah. So he comes home saying, "Oh, what did you guys catch on your fishing trip? Oh, Mom, I got a brand new PS4 with any game I wanted." What? Yeah, that's true. That kid's probably living large right now.
Dad got a visit from CPS.
That's the time the story, like, hey, until he tells his wife, man, he's on the hook for that.
Well, it's cool though, because then like in 5 more years, like we're at that stage now in life when your parents can be like, "Oh, remember that time?" And then your mom be like, "No, I don't remember that."
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember that. You're sure you do. I told you about that, didn't I?
Sorry, Aunt Shelly, about Landon and camping. That's probably one of those stories you just learned about.
Apologize.
Yeah.
Let's not go into what age Landon was at that time.
Definitely 21.
Definitely 21. All right, I saved the best story submission for last. Okay, I'm going to change a couple of names and details about this story, only to protect a loved one, because this was someone who submitted a story that's quite close to me. So here's a funny story. I decided to get out of town. I'm changing the name of the town for a weekend to spend a long weekend in Bangkok to meet up with some friends and do some golfing.
Right.
What most normal people do on a
We
weekend.
go to Bangkok to go golfing.
That's
So
true.
I found a great deal on a ticket and left on a flight the day before my friends. That was mistake number 1. 3 hours into the flight, the captain says, "We are diverting to Sri Lanka due to minor mechanical problems." We land in Sri Lanka and spend nearly 16 hours at the airport before the minor mechanical problem, in quotes, got cleared up. Wheels up, and 3.5 hours later, and I'm on the ground in Bangkok standing at a baggage claim. I grabbed my check bag, but no golf clubs anywhere in sight. I speak to the airline, and they kindly inform me some of the luggage was left behind in Colombo. Do you guys know where any of these places are? If I gave you a map right now to point out Sri Lanka and Colombo. Anyway, sorry to insult my guests.
Listen, I couldn't get my audio to work earlier, so I'm not insulted at all.
They took my hotel info and assured me that it would be on the next flight and they would happily deliver it to my hotel. Oh well, I grab a taxi and head for the hotel. I check in at the hotel in the heart of the entertainment district. So I'm excited to get this weekend underway. I drop my passport and a wad of money into the safety deposit box, which is held at the reception desk at the hotel. I keep about 10,000 baht, which is equivalent to 175 US dollars, on me for my evening out. I shower, put on some fresh clothes, and I'm out the door. I spent about 2 hours bar hopping and eating some street food, but it was getting late and I hadn't had a proper meal since I left nearly 24 hours before. I start making my way back to the hotel and see a sidewalk cafe where everyone is sucking down a huge bowl of noodles. Bingo! Before I go any further with this story, I want to know if I'm the only guy that does not get the noodle craze. Like,
No.
all of these new ramen restaurants and like Anthony Bourdain's show on Trout Chain is always sucking down noodles everywhere. What is it about noodles that people go nuts over?
I don't know. Like most of the ones that I've been to are like complete trash. But
Yeah, maybe it's because it's in the
I
United
mean, you can
States.
get ramen for like 10 cents a pack. I can't imagine it's a whole lot different.
Yeah, but what do you need to eat ramen for when you get a job and grow up? You don't. I sit down with a large beer and a large bowl of noodles. I exchanged a few pleasantries with 2 ladies sitting at an adjacent table. Small talk stuff. Where are you from? How old are you? Easy English conversation, trying to make it simple. I will fast forward to the next morning because that is the next thing that I remember. I woke up with a splitting headache, like an insane hangover. I thought that was odd because I had only had a few beers the night before. I went to the bathroom to brush my teeth, but couldn't find my toothbrush. I went back to the bed to grab some aspirin from my bag, but I couldn't find my bag. I sat on the bed for a minute, trying to clear my head, and nothing was making sense. I looked around to see that both of my bags were gone. I went to put on my shoes to go down to the front desk to ask them if I left my bags or they moved them or something, but I could not find my shoes. I'll make this short. I had nothing except the underwear on my booty. The shoes, clothes from the night before, along with my bags, and even my freaking toothbrush were gone. I went down to the lobby in my underwear to the receptionist. I told her what was going on. She said, "Sir, last night you have nice party with 2 ladies at your room. You don't remember? See?" She showed him a sign-in sheet. It says, "You signed them in here as guests last night." She shows me something that could have been my signature on the guest log. and it hits me. I was drugged and robbed. Then she says, "It's okay. The airline delivered your golf bag." I I opened up the safe box behind the desk and gave the doorman $100 to run down to the market and buy me the largest shirt, shorts, and shoes he could find. He came back with an extra, extra, extra large short and a shirt that was no bigger than a U.S. medium. A few hours later, I had the pleasure of greeting my friends in the lobby of the hotel dressed like a 1970s tennis player and wearing golf cleats. So, the lessons here. Expect delays when you opt for a cheap flight. Keep an eye on your stinking drinks. Even uggos like me can get roofied. And put a spare pair of clothes in your golf bag. I can't be too upset about this. At least I didn't wake up in the bathtub missing a kidney. Love the podcast. Keep it up. That story, I can vouch, is absolutely true because it happened to me. No, I'm kidding. But I know the individual it did happen to, and it's definitely something to be expected. Great travel submissions. What do you guys think of those? What's your favorite? Let's vote.
Oh, I mean, absolutely the last one. I mean, that sounds like the nightmare stories you hear from.
Sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounded like the plot to The Hangover, too.
Yeah, almost.
And that even happened in Bangkok.
Yeah. The second one.
Yeah.
So what is the quote unquote entertainment district of Bangkok? What does that entail?
Goes on down there.
I'm not super cultured. I'm not trying to hide that. So I don't know.
Apparently, large bowls of noodles, beer, roofies.
Roofies.
Sounds like a good time. Oh, I love.
At least his golf cleats came. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, that is a good. It is a good travel tip, though, to keep a spare pair of clothes in your golf bag.
Yeah, yeah. If you're going golfing in Bangkok.
Yeah. For those of you out there, that was air quotes. So, in the theme of this, I wanted to share a story of my worst travel experience. And I think Landon's heard the story. I don't know if you've ever heard the story, Brett. So I'm excited to get your first impression of it. So, my worst travel experience ever. I'm going to lay a bit of groundwork, so bear with me, because you have to understand the context of this story. So, it's Christmas, I believe the day after Christmas, right? And this was before I moved to California. So I was out in California with my wife visiting her family, and I was flying back to Pennsylvania for work and had to be back. So I leave San Diego to fly, and I have a layover in Dallas, right? And if there's any airport that you do not want to connect through, it's Dallas, Chicago, or Denver in the wintertime. Notoriously the worst places to travel through. So we're delayed leaving San Diego by like 3 or 4 hours, right? And it's already an evening flight. So in about a half hour before we land in Dallas, they tell us that we're going to be delayed overnight because the last plane back to Pittsburgh already left. So we land at Dallas Fort Worth, and they say, "Oh, but we've got good news for you. You can go to the customer service counter, and we've got some cots available for you that you can spend the night in the airport and get a cot." So I go to the customer service place. Cots are all gone because it's Dallas in the winter. There's more than just one flight being delayed. Cots are all gone. I say, "Okay, well, then you have any blocks of rooms at a hotel, whatever?" "Oh, we already sold out of those. We've already got our blocks of rooms covered." So I said, "I'm not sleeping on the floor of this place," because my flight wasn't out till like the next day at like 3 o'clock. So I paid using my Marriott points and went into, stay there the night, come back to the airport the next day, getting on the plane. We're delayed another 2 to 3 hours getting on the plane, going back. So now I'm there for almost 24 hours in Dallas, right? In the airport. So I give you guys all that context so that you understand the mood that the people are in that are getting on this plane to go back to Pittsburgh. Okay? Nobody's happy. So we get on the plane, and I am kind of like halfway back on the plane and just tired, want to get back home. I've already missed a day of work because of this delay. So I'm sitting in a row, and I luck out, and I got the middle seat free, you know, which is, and nowadays is like a freaking jackpot, you know, when you don't get someone sitting next to you in the middle. The guy sitting on the end is an American Airlines pilot that's catching a ride home, right? That becomes important later. So this pilot's sitting next to me, catching a ride home, and he's like half asleep, right, when we get on the plane because everybody's just exhausted. So then they come on the loudspeaker after we're all boarded and say, we've got to wait for one more plane to get into Dallas and let those people on because this is the last flight back to Pittsburgh tonight. So we sit another 25 to 30 minutes at the tarmac waiting for this last plane to come in. So finally, all the people start funneling on the plane, okay? The last guy to get on the plane. Before I go any further, I have to make a disclaimer. I'm going to affectionately refer to this guy as Dale. I don't know what his real name is, but I think that, like, you guys get what I mean by when I say Dale, because it's like the male equivalent to Karen. Like, this dude is like the guy that everybody knows who you don't want to get stuck talking to, right? This is the guy's personality. It's the Dale of the, you know, you either work with him or he's in your neighborhood. Everybody's got the Dale that they know that, you know, you come around and go, fucking Dale, you know, nobody wants to talk to this guy.
If you don't know Dale, that means it's you.
Yeah, if you don't know Dale, you are Dale. So we've got a quote unquote Dale get on the plane. Let me tell you how I know he's a Dale just by looking at him. I'm going to describe what this guy's wearing and what he looks like. And you guys are going to have the aha moment of understanding what we're about to talk about. So the guy gets on the plane, overweight gentleman. His clothing that he's wearing is like if Jimmy Buffett's closet combined with John Popper of Blues Traveler. Okay. This is that guy's outfit. So Hawaiian shirt
description.
That's the best way I can describe it. But you know exactly what I'm talking about, don't I? So he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt, a fedora, like a grass or a straw fedora. But he's wearing like a shooting vest that's not used for ammunition. Like he's using the shooting vest.
How do you even make it that far on a plane with a vest like that?
I don't know. Well, it gets even better because wait till you see that what this guy is about to do wearing a shooting vest on an airplane. So he gets on the plane. This is how he's dressed. Oh, and he has cargo shorts on with this outfit. And he's carrying 2 large instrument cases in addition to a backpack. So he's got a backpack on his shoulder and he's carrying 2 instrument cases. So this guy says he comes back and you can already tell by the looks at him the type of personality that Dale is. So he comes back, and those of us, even though if you don't travel a lot, everybody knows what the universal symbol of the bin is closed, right? The bin is closed means there's no more room for your luggage, right? So Dale comes back and he's standing in the aisleway, the last guy on the plane that's keeping us from finally taking off to go to Pittsburgh. And Dale's standing in the aisle and Dale's sitting right in the row in front of me. So I get a first front row seat to this spectacle. And I love shit like this, right? I love observing the awkwardness of humanity. Yeah. So I'm like eating this up, but everybody around us is hating it, right? So Dale opens the bin abruptly, and it's full, right? So he proceeds to start trying to literally shove this instrument case into the overhead bin. Finally, a flight attendant, comes up and says, she says, "Sir, the bin is full. You're going to have to find somewhere else to fit it." He goes, this is my Dale voice. He goes, "Well, where am I supposed to fit it if it's all full?" And she said, "Well, you can put something under your seat and, find space for the other things." "Well, I've got to find somewhere to put this clarinet." So we determined that the first instrument is a clarinet. "I've got somewhere to put this clarinet." And I'm telling you, when he's saying this, I'm not doing the justice of the volume in which Dale is shouting on this aircraft. Yeah. So he's still trying to force this instrument case into the overhead bin. And he says, now he's getting mad, right? As mad as Dale can get, because you can tell Dale's on something to relax himself. Yeah. But he's trying to shuffle bags, and he's pushing people's bags violently from one end to another. And he goes, "Somebody's got to move some luggage up here so I can fit this instrument up in here." He goes, "Come on, people, let's work together here." Like, it's our responsibility that we were on time for us to make Dale's flight easy.
On a plane full of the most pissed off passengers you can imagine.
The most pissed off people that you can imagine. All have been stuck in Dallas. So finally, he finds enough room and he squeezes the clarinet up there. But then he's got to try to fit the mandolin. The mandolin case is 2 times the size of the clarinet case.
I don't even know what a mandolin looks like.
Yeah, me either.
It's like a ukulele, like a miniature guitar.
Okay.
Could you not figure out what instrument Dale was playing by the description that I gave you? That he needs to haul a clarinet and a mandolin to Pittsburgh.
This combination of instruments, yeah.
So, I don't know. I really want to hear Dale.
Me too. I think it's Blues Traveler.
So he's trying to move shit. Now Dale's getting pissed, and he starts pulling people's luggage out of the overhead bin to try to make room for this. So he grabs like one of those reusable grocery bags. You know, those ones that like you take to the grocery store to made out of cloth. Yeah. He pulls one of those out, and he shouts at the top of his lungs, "Who's got all this medicine up here?" There's a bag full of medicine that he yanks out of the thing. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, some old lady has all these medicine bottles. No joke. The biggest fucking dude you've ever seen on the planet. I'm talking The Rock times 10 stands up and says, "Mine, and don't fucking touch it." Because you can tell that this guy's stuff was in the bin as Dale's rummaging through, and the whole time he's waiting for that opportunity to say what he's been thinking the whole time. He says, "Mine, and don't fucking touch it." And Dale turns around and says, all right. Finally, Dale gets his shit in there. We sit down. We take off. We're back to Pittsburgh. Dale talks the whole fucking time to his seat partner. He's that guy, too, that he's talking about everything. So we land in Pittsburgh. And this night could not end, right? So we land in Pittsburgh. We're driving to the tarmac, or on the tarmac to the gate, and an abrupt crash happens on the plane. The pilot comes on and says, because of the ice on the tarmac, we hit a pothole that we didn't see.
Oh my gosh.
And the wheel is stuck on the tarmac. First of all, an airport with potholes.
Pittsburgh.
Just let that be
Pennsylvania.
the answer.
Yeah.
So we're sitting on the tarmac. They bring one of those little tug things out, right? You know, the things that pull the plane. They're trying to jerk that thing back and forth to get it out of the pothole. So now come Q pilot that's sitting next to me, right? He wakes up from his slumber and he's just eye rolling, right? Like he knows that this is not. He's just like eye rolling, and he keeps mumbling, "Just bring out the bus. Just bring out the bus." He's pissed. So they do this for an hour. So the pilot reveals to us at some point that they can legally keep us on the plane for something like 2 hours before having to bring the bus out to get us off. And so now we're stuck on the tarmac for 2 hours with Dale sitting in front of us. So Dale stands up and he's stretching and he turns around and he notices the pilot sitting next to me. And he says, "Oh, I didn't see you back here, Captain." He says, "Can't you go up there and do anything about this?" And he goes, the pilot says, "No, I'm just like you, man. I'm just catching a ride to get home." And Dale says, "Ugh, I don't know about all that." Finally, 2 hours later, the bus comes out, takes us all to the airport terminal, and we get off the plane and finally ended what was, I think, total like a 30-hour travel trip to go 5 hours home.
Oh my gosh.
And thus my never-ending search from that point forward to locate Dale and try to find this gentleman that I could not make up in my wildest dreams. This guy was. So if he's a listener, Dale, if you're a listener to PTP, there's a spot open on Tuesdays for an interview with you, because I'd really like to know.
We need an intro with the clarinet.
Yeah. The new intro to the PTP podcast with the clarinet. So anyway, that's my worst travel experience.
You want me to give you my worst one?
Yes, sir.
I wasn't quite planning on sharing this, but after your story, I feel like I probably could. I will keep it brief.
As long as you change names and places.
There's no names. It's just embarrassing. So I think I was 21. It was over Christmas holiday. I was in college. My mom decided that we were going to go on a cruise. So we left out of Florida. We had these excursions. One was in Mexico. There's one in the Bahamas, and we stopped in Jamaica at one point. And it was Christmas Day. We stopped in Jamaica. This is kind of my first time out of the country, so I was nervous, a little bit on edge. My mom, she does travel a lot, so she's been to Jamaica and in those areas quite a bit. So we get off the cruise for an excursion, and we hop in this taxi. It's like the Daytona 500 going around these traffic circles in Jamaica. We get off at this, I guess it's like an outlet mall type of a deal. And she wants to go shopping for a purse. So we're walking around Jamaica, and she's insistent that the good deals are not at the tourist, quote unquote, tourist spot. So we ventured down these back alleys, and I kid you not, there were like a hot dog cart selling some bras. There was a dude passed out on the sidewalk with foam coming out of his mouth. He was breathing, but she ended up at this downtown district.
At the time, though, did you believe your mom that she's been to these shopping places before? Or do you think this was the first time?
No, but she does travel quite a bit, so
all right. You had to take her
faith
word
in her.
for it.
Long story short, she buys some purse. And granted, this is Christmas Day, and we're headed back to the cruise ship. We're standing in this long line of customs to get back through and onto the cruise ship. I'm wearing like a white t-shirt, camo shorts, have a hat on, Chew Copenhagen in. I'm just waiting in this long line
this is going.
to get back on the ship. I just wanted to go home. So I'm thinking, man, it's going to be like 30 minutes before I get back through this customs line. And all of a sudden, 2 border patrol or custom guards come and they grab me and they put me in this short line. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Maybe I'm just getting expedited.
The short line's never good.
No. Well, I wait probably 2 minutes and I walk through this door, and here I am, 21 years old. And at this point, I kind of know what's going on. This room has 1 chair, no windows, and a light. And I'm thinking, oh, what the hell is going on? So I sit there for about 30 seconds. It feels like 2 hours. In walks this 6'7" black guy with Jamaican with rubber gloves on his hand. Already on. I didn't see him put these gloves on. So I'm not
Were
sure
they
if they're
wet?
fresh off the box. I don't know if they're fresh out the box or what. This dude's been putting them on all day. So at this point, I'm starting to sweat bullets. Not sure how far this is going to have to go. So stand up. He asked me where we went. At this point, I realized someone probably tailed us when we went through this district of hot dog.
I don't care where we went. I want to know where we're going.
Asking, did we buy? What did I buy when I was out on my excursion, and giving me the rundown. Finally, he says, "You need to stand up." So I stand up, and he pats my arms, and next thing you know, he said, "You got to drop your shorts." I said, "Excuse me." So reluctantly, that happens. Drop my shorts. He does a swoop around, checks me, and I'm all clear. Thankfully, there was no.
Wait,
it was just a swoop.
You were all clear after eating Jamaican jerk chicken all afternoon.
And it's hot.
I find that hard to believe.
By his standard, I was all clear. There was no drugs on me, but it was 90-something degrees, and I had been walking through a downtown district. So we can just kind of put that up to what it is. And then I was on my way. It was a Merry Christmas.
Oh, he didn't.
That was it.
He said Merry Christmas?
No, I said Merry Christmas to him.
Oh, you said Merry Christmas to him.
Told him next time
I thought you said
next time I'll buy him a drink.
Merry Christmas. Yeah. Oh my God. That guy's got to have the worst job in the world.
I'm
Is
just
there
glad
a worse job?
I'm just glad he didn't chuckle.
What did the gloves look like after he did the swoop around?
They were slick.
Oh my God. Man.
So
I thought that story was going to that your mom had drugs smuggled in her purse. That's where I thought it was going.
No, it was going.
No, I mean that she didn't know that there were, and they were trying to get it on the. That's what I thought it was going.
No, it just a little feel down for Christmas morning.
Wow, was that the best Christmas gift you've ever gotten?
It's pretty close. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
That's a good story. Wow. You have to have a beer or two, Indy, to tell that one now.
It's out now.
Whew.
To a couple hundred people,
out there.
At least.
Yeah.
That's what PTP Live's all about. Good stuff. Lan, do you have any stories? Or do you want to reserve that for another podcast?
I'll reserve those for another podcast. I think we've shared enough about ourselves.
We've talked
about our family,
enough about you. Yeah, no. This is airing of the grievances.
Right.
Dude, this was fun.
Yeah.
That hour flew by.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and want you guys to come back again. Hopefully, Brett can get his computer monitor or computer audio worked out so we can hear him better. But this was
sorry
fun.
about that.
Man, no apologies necessary. It still can hear it. It just sounds like you're on the phone.
Which I am.
So let's run this. Let's finish this up by everybody going through. What was your favorite part about the podcast, Land? Today's.
I would say probably the travel stories that everybody sent in. That'd be pretty good stories. Some laughs for sure. Some that are like just, I don't know, crazy. Some like a script from the Hangover 4 or something like that. But I think that'd be a cool addition to the podcast. Every once in a while, people continue to send in interesting travel stories. It's fun to listen to you guys' stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's fun. If you're listening out there, send us some more stories now that you kind of know what we're looking for there. We're going the spectrum of from Bigfoot to Big Finger. That's pretty much the spectrum. Brett, what was your favorite part of the podcast?
I liked the Mike Long article. You know,
Yeah,
there was a lot of stuff we didn't even dive into that was interesting. So I do encourage people to go read that article. It's a good one.
Yeah, go check that article out, sdfish.com. If you've got about 10 hours to kill, you can go knock that out. It actually is a good article. The guy put a lot of work into it. I mean, I know we joke about the length of it, but that guy went to an extreme amount. And that's the one thing too, I know, not to circle back to this, but the one thing that I really appreciate about that is that shows that guy's passion for what he does.
Right.
And the industry that he's involved with. Like, he wants to protect, and I think he doesn't even live in, I don't even know if he lives in San Diego anymore, but you know, he was so passionate about that scene from such a young age, because this whole thing started when he was a teenager, you know, and for him to have the courage to do this and to go through all that work just to get this, you know, just for the sheer purpose of bringing, you know, ethics back to his sport that he loves. That you gotta give that guy credit. For
I mean,
sure.
The article was lengthy for good reason. I mean, if you really read the whole thing, there are some details in there that are, I mean, just such good evidence of what kind of went down and stuff like that. I mean, he knew the weights of the fish. He had 40 photos or something like that of fish that he had caught that nobody ever had seen. And he has a lot of crazy evidence and creepy stuff too.
I think it's the difference between exposing someone that was a fake versus writing a hate piece, which you see a lot of that happen, you know, on the internet or blogs or whatever it is.
Right.
And that's
no, that's the best way to summarize it, because I think there's a lot of people out there that can jaw about, you know, that, and probably would have done it in a less. I really don't. I think Mike Long got off easy with that article.
Right. Absolutely.
And he probably, in all reality, is a little bit relieved that he doesn't have to live that shit anymore and live that lie and keep up with that persona, because bass fishing is hard. And that's why there's only 40 anglers on the bass tour, you know, something to that effect, that of making a legitimate living doing it. I mean, that guy has to be a little bit relieved that he doesn't have to keep up this lie, you know, and he probably won't fish again, because if he has to do it legitimately, it's probably not worth it to him. But, you know,
it doesn't sound like he's very good at it anyways.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be surprised if they don't ban him.
I just hope,
I don't know.
I just hope the tournaments recover and get some, you know, become reputable again, because it seemed like in the article he had mentioned over and over again about the amount of teams entering the competitions just started to dwindle after some time, just because of people, you know, rumors and stuff about what was going on with Mike and everything else. But,
you know, there's that one guy out there that says, I'm glad to have this restored to when a 3-pounder can win a tournament again.
Right. Yeah. It's
Yeah. No, I like that too. I like that article. And yeah, I was, my favorite part was definitely the bass article. I thought that was interesting, and as well as the travel stories were cool. Thanks everybody who sent stuff in, revealed your personal travel experiences, as unpleasant as they may have been for most of us. Dale seems like a pleasure compared to Jamaica and Bangkok.
right.
Jeez. But yeah, so make sure to tune in to next week's PTP Live. We're going to do this every week now, and this is a way for us to connect with the audience on a weekly basis because, as you know, the interviews I record are just done whenever, and could be a few weeks from when I record them to when I post them. So this is a way for us to keep the show fresh on a weekly basis. So send us your feedback. Let us know what you think of PTP Live Episode 1. I want to thank Brother Landon and Cousin Brett for joining me on the first episode of PTP Live. Can't wait to have them back. You're going to be hearing a lot more from them, I'm sure. And Brett and I have been talking about an episode of PTP Live that I want to record coming up that I think you guys are really going to like, with a friend of Brett's who had an interesting experience in the woods, whitetail hunting. And I can't wait to share that with you guys and get him on the show. If he's still willing after hearing this, he might bail out on us. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tune in next week. And thank you guys for doing this. Sorry to keep you up late. And hope you have a good week this week.
Yeah. It's fun.
You too. Appreciate it.
Yep.
See you guys.
Later.